Good morning. Good morning. What's happening, family? Welcome to the show this morning. It is Michelle Bryant here at WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You are listening to Say Something Real. Let me say good morning to the bros in the studio. What's happening, Debo? How you doing this morning?
Top of the morning to you, Evangelist Bryant. Certainly glad to be here this morning, knowing that God is able to do anything but fail. So with that being said, we're going to turn it over to the usher board. Go right ahead.
So what I call you, the head usher? I mean,
you call me the chairman of the board. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Deacon so-and-so.
Amen.
Deacon
God
ride
bless
out.
you.
I mean, what should I call you this morning?
Watch me over and over.
Here we go.
No, but listen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Michelle. I just want to tell you, woman, you are fine as one.
You know,
and I thought about you over the weekend, right?
Yes.
And there's a reason.
Why?
Well, this is why. I want you to open this up.
Here's why. Oh, Lord.
Here's why.
Foolishness right away.
Whatever it was in the trash because it's all balled up. It's so stupid. You drew a Y on the paper.
Here's why.
Here's why. You know what? I don't know how
respectfully, Michelle.
Mental health care costs.
Respectfully, Michelle.
But I'm willing to do whatever you got to do, so you can see somebody. Whatever you got to do.
I'm just saying, you know.
So you can see somebody.
I thought about you this weekend.
You know, I'm gonna say that.
Here's why.
I'm gonna frame that, bro. I'm gonna frame that. Just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, Matt. So much. So much. Hey, Alex. Good morning, fam. Hey, Shelby.
Won't he do it?
Will he? Won't he?
Sometimes he don't.
Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you get left hanging.
Amen. Sometimes you don't.
Hey, Mano. It was a record playing Saturday by Otis Clay. He said, I could take you to heaven tonight. I'm no angel, but I know I do you right. Michelle texts me. So I call her. She said, bros be over promising and
don't deliver. You expected heaven and you get the lowly bar.
I was so appalled by the song. I was so appalled. Like, that's why I really don't like listening to TV show. Because, you know, you'll be going along and, you know, and then some song would come out and just be like, really? So, yeah, that was a whole mess. I was appalled by that song. But Eddie sound like y'all, whatever. I ain't gonna say that. I'm just
he's deceased now.
No, move on.
But he the one that made When the Gates Swing Open. Otis Clay.
Otis Clay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say. I'm moving on.
Woo, felt that
the gate swing open and he was taking you to heaven.
I'll walk on these.
I don't have nothing to say. And then I think he played like a gospel song after that. For people who had
try to soften it up, huh?
I'm like, how you go from that to gospel?
Yeah, there's
like,
no.
I guess
you know, we just blur those blurred lines.
Right.
We do it all the time.
It's a thin line.
Concert time.
Yeah.
Tiny desk.
You know that you got to shake your head when you sing that song.
Man, you can do it. You and Debo could do a tiny desk concert right here.
Woo.
All right, family. So let me just tell y'all. It's a couple of different places. I was thinking about starting the show this morning. I think I'm gonna just do a temporary pivot because literally I just had tears in my eyes. And I was saying before the mic went up, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna just go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and do this piece. So, you know, I think about the conversations that I have had with folks that support the Trump agenda, Black Republicans in particular. And, you know, I keep asking them, so what exactly is it that you were hoping to get out of this administration? What is it? What is it that you wanted? And does the first 3-4 months of his presidency look like what you envision? And I hear some Black folks somehow stay the course, and government was bloated. That was a nonsense I heard last week during the election. No, I'm asking you about the attacks on DEI. I'm asking you about the attacks on Black people, on Black history, revisionist history. I don't want to hear about a damn bloated government. I want you as a Black person to speak to what we are seeing happening systematically around this country, and with a straight face, tell me what you think about it. And I can't get that. I can't seem to get a Black Republican to tell me without rhetoric and talking points and this is the party line, how you feel as a Black person in America as these white folks are rewriting our history. And white folks, i.e. Republican white folks, rewriting our history. So I told y'all when we did the college tour that as we toured the Smithsonian, the story was breaking about Trump telling the Smithsonian that they had to revise their texts of their museums, and anything that was deemed anti-American, divisive in terms of race, it had to be removed. And I had a moment when I had to look away, because honest to God, I got weak to my knees to think about what's happening right now. So the National Park Service has edited a page on its website that describes the Underground Railroad to reduce the emphasis of Harriet Tubman, instead highlighting, quote, Black-white cooperation. So this was reported in the Washington Post. And they noted that the government took down the portrait of Harriet Tubman, as well as the quote at the top of the page where Harriet Tubman described herself as, quote, the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years. And in place of Tubman's portrait is a collage of 5 U.S. Postal Service stamps that depict Black and white abolitionist figures, including Tubman, who were involved in helping to bring escaped enslaved people to the North. Quote, the Underground Railroad, the resistance to enslavement through the escape and flight through the end of the Civil War, refers to the efforts of enslaved African Americans to gain their freedom by escaping bondage. The page used to read. The opening lines of the page no longer mention slavery. Black Republicans. The opening line no longer uses the word slavery, but called the Underground Railroad, quote, one of the most significant expressions of the American civil rights movement. It states that the network, quote, bridged the divides of race. According to an article in the Post, since Trump returned to office, dozens of government-owned web pages have, quote, softened descriptions of some of the most shameful moments of the nation's past, including erasing or editing references to slavery and Jim Crow segregation. High-ranking political appointees at the Interior Department, which manages the Park Service, have directed staff to identify web pages that the administration might take issue with. Additional changes. Taking down a page describing the life of Benjamin Franklin and his relationship with slavery. As of March 1st, the page, which included lesson plans for teachers, now show a message. This page is currently being worked on. Please check back later. Removing a mention that the Declaration of Independence signer Thomas Stone owned enslaved people from a number of pages for the Stone National Historic Site in Southern Maryland. So we're going to make a former slave owner no longer a slave owner, at least on government documents. A reference on the site to enslaved African Americans in nearby areas was changed to enslaved workers. So we're not going to say that the slaves was black folks, that they was African Americans, that they were just workers, enslaved workers. No reference to race, because we don't want school children to know no reference to race, just enslaved workers. Deleting a section of a Minuteman National Historical Parkway webpage that talked about how black soldiers who fought in the Revolutionary War were not recognized for their efforts. That passage said in part that systemic racism and historical bias have erased or buried many records of black and indigenous people who played a prominent role in the founding of the United States. It's removing that part. Removing mentions of the struggle, quote, for equality. We're going to remove that part from the webpage. On the Niagara movement, founded by W.E.B. Du Bois. There are page after page on this government website in which they remove all mentions of the actual word slavery. In a statement, a representative for the Park Service said, quote, the National Park Service has been entrusted with preserving local history, celebrating local heritage, safeguarding special places, and sharing stories of American experiences. We take this role seriously and can point to many examples of how to tell nuanced and difficult stories about American history. This revisionist purge appears to be a part of the administration's anti-DEI objectives. Earlier edits to the Department of Defense websites removed the tribute to Jackie Robinson's military service. Pages that featured women, pages that featured stories about minority groups, like the Tuskegee Airmen. When confronted, the administration blamed their use of AI for the pages being taken down, which we know is a lie. An executive order signed by Trump last month called for the removal of anti-American ideology from the Smithsonian Institution, including targeting exhibits at the National Museum of African American History and the Women's History Museum. He declared that the Smithsonian would be banned from hosting exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans based on race, or promote programs or ideologies inconsistent with federal law and policy. Black Republicans, what the hell? Will Martin, what you got to say, bruh? Gerard Randall, what you got to say, bruh? All you fence-walking Black Republicans, what y'all got to say? See, because, I usually just don't straight call people's names. But when I tell you that to my soul, I am so freaking upset. I am so hurt. And I'm going to have to find a strategic way to fight this and to deal with it. But Black folks, driving your babies to school this morning, your grandchildren, your foster children, your nieces, nephews, anybody that you have influence and contact with, you are going to have books in your home. You're going to have information to counter what's being done in this country. And that this is being done by the federal government at the behest of a few people. But it is becoming national policy. Do y'all understand what it means now for the Smithsonian Museum of Black History? Do you understand what that means about what you will see? That's why when them little white kids was walking through that day we were visiting with these damn Make America Great hats on and these Trump hats, like people, even these children understand what's happening right now in this country. And so for all of these Black people that tell me you want me to care about economic policy, but you don't want me to care about the fact that you're trying to erase that slavery happened from the books. You want me to care about the cost of eggs, but damn the fact that, all the institutions and markers that we have fought so hard for in this country to have to tell the truth about some of this stuff. I need you to ignore that. No big deal. When I brought up Black colleges losing internships, I had one of my colleagues, Will Martin, say, well, what are we talking? 1 or 2, 2 or 4? What are we talking? But that's 1 or 2 that is game-changing employment, game-changing income, game-changing wealth for a Black family.
I think 1 or 2 is 1 or 2 too many.
These Negroes can't provide you no sound excuse for their support. I'm willing to give up everything culturally, and you don't even have a seat at the table. You actually standing around the peripheral of the table like them Black folks used to do back during slavery, when white folks thought we was invisible and they could say anything they want to, even plan a lynching and plan a war, and we standing right in the room. That's what y'all are.
Do you think that some of these Black Republicans, do you think that they're being bought?
I mean, to some extent, some of it is power. I mean, money. Yeah. You know, because you're getting contracts. We bringing you to the table to do stuff. I think about this nonsense going on over at the Truth, where they are more leaning Republican, you know, telling Black folks to vote for the referendum that was just on the ballot on April 1st. You know, all of this is designed to harm communities of color.
Yeah.
And you got supposedly a Black leaning radio station and Black talkers telling people or encouraging people. People was coming up to me, you know, like this weekend, like, man, I was listening to so-and-so, and they was telling folks to support the referendum.
Yeah.
And you're like, why?
I actually had a conversation with one of my good friends. And you know, he was telling me that he listened to the Truth, which you know, whatever you want to listen to is whatever you want to listen to. But what I had an issue with is when he was, you know, telling me that, you know, he voted for Brittany Kinzer because listening to the Truth, they told him that Jill Underly was bringing education down, and that it was, you know, that she was making choices to bring education down, and Brittany Kinzer was going to bring education up. So I asked the question. I said, well, how did she bring it down? He couldn't answer it. So I'm like.
And the flip side, how Brittany Kinzer going to bring it up? Since that was the selling point.
I mean, I just didn't. And true enough, everybody has their own opinion. You can make your own decisions.
But it's the difference between opinions and facts.
Base facts.
And understanding what's happening around us.
Yeah.
All of the playing that we do, we're gonna have to incorporate a lot of work, y'all, to make, because see, this is the other part. In some cases, they're not just having this stuff removed from websites, they're destroying stuff so that it won't be Trump leaves office in 4 years and then we can just, you know, go back, archive, get it out the deleted trash bin and put it back up. That's not how they're trying to disassemble this. They're trying to make it as difficult and as hard as possible to return back to normal after this man leaves office. I gotta take a break. But if we don't understand as Black folks the urgency of now, the moment that we are in, and I'll just tell you, God no. This is so minor on the scale of what our people have endured in this country since we were first captured, stolen, and brought to this land. It's so minor. You know, somebody changing a web page and lying about history. You know, I'm not being beaten. I'm not being shackled. I'm not being raped. I'm not being, you know, made to live outside. So on that scale, it's so minor. But when I tell you just my physical and mental reaction to what's happening right now, you just get a continued respect for the kind of people we are. What we have endured in this raggedy, racist, unwilling to tell the truth about themselves behind country. Oh my God. If you don't know and understand why we hail from some of the most amazing people on the planet, because I feel broken with just these attacks. Imagine what it took for them to rise up every day and fight what was being done to them and maintain their humanity. I gotta take a break. I'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Taking a couple of moments this morning, just, my frustration at what we are seeing around us, Black folks' participation in it, and their inability to explain or even condemn things that we are seeing that are harming us in terms of the narrative around slavery. Our fight and will to survive and thrive in the odds of everything that we have endured. And it just makes me think, and this sentiment, it's not new. Like I said, the Black History Month resolution that was first challenged by a white man married to a Black woman, raising biracial children, but he didn't want the story of, the Black History Month resolution that the Legislative Black Caucus put forward to read the way that it did, honoring Black folks in Black History Month. And remember, I said infamously or famously now that he goes through, writes his own resolution. So we're going to have a white man write for us a resolution in Black History Month about us, telling us what we should honor. And in it, he chose to honor, I think it was 5 white people, 3 indigenous people, and either 2 or 3 Black people. So in our own month that we created, in this white man's mind, who's married to a Black woman, raising biracial kids, he decided that no, it should be majority white people that gets honored in Black History Month. And in fact, of everybody honored, Black people got the least mentions in his resolution. And that set in motion a process in the state capitol of every time Black History Month rolled around, you got challenges to the Black History Month resolution. And white folks nitpicking about who could and who couldn't be honored. And I watched Black legislators this Black History Month running around town, with anybody that would talk to them. Ooh, we got it done. We got a Black History Month resolution through. Ooh, pat us on the back. But you had to do it by leaving one person on the field because they didn't like the brother on their name, Sam Coleman. So, yeah, you can get a Black History Month resolution done as long as your massa sign off on who you honor. Negroes. So you chose to leave one of your own on the field so you could say, oh, we were able to do something. That's how this go. And so I'm watching people across the board try to figure out how to respond. This weekend, there were protests around the world called Hands Off. One of the things that a lot of people have been noting, it was not a lot of Black people at a lot of these events. I'm going to talk about that, but let me go to the phone line first. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello?
Hello.
Hey, caller.
Hey, this is Michael.
Hey, Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Michelle. Yeah, I had some thoughts about what you're talking about. I guess I didn't know exactly where you were at because I can't listen to the radio and talk at the same time. But I think it's time that we need to start holding people accountable and start, really calling it what it is. I think that the Democrats and Republicans together are all in this thing together. Republicans have a way of hitting your pocket, and Democrats have a way of trying to solve problems. Well, they create problems to solve. I don't need to be fixed. I don't need to be saved. I need you to get out of my way. Give me the information, and I generally can figure out what I think is best for me. So, this is no surprise about what's happening with the removal of Black people's history. But as Black people, we have a responsibility to keep and maintain our history. Africans used to verbally pass down knowledge. And that was what the women's used to do. That was really how we function as a people. So I've understood that for a while now. I haven't been in Milwaukee. I'm actually calling from out of state in about 8 years, but I'm getting ready to move back that way. And I just think that it's time for people to really realize the dire situation that we're in. You know, I'm not looking to be saved, and I would caution against that. I'm not looking to be saved. The system is not designed for you to succeed. The system is designed to keep you oppressed, to keep you confused and chaos. And I will attribute that to both Democrats and Republicans. They just have different approaches. But at the end of the day, it's still the same game.
All right. Thank you, caller. I appreciate the views. Look, I have been very clear, even as a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party, that both of these parties are flawed. You get no argument from me. There is an element of, on the Democratic Party side of things, people thinking that they can think for me. They can tell me who my leader should be. They can pick the Negro that's most palatable to them and then clear the field, use money, power, influence to push any other contenders back so that their chosen candidate, not our chosen candidate, not the community's choice. The community thinks it's our choice, but it's a false choice because we've watched them clear the path so that the person that they met with, that they interviewed, that they vetted, that they decided, no, I'd rather work with him versus her versus her, that happens. You're not going to get no argument from me. And I say it, in party meetings. What you get on the radio is the same show you get in Democratic Party meetings. I'm going to say the same thing. So you don't get a whole bunch of pushback from me on that. There have been things that Democrats have done to disenfranchise voters, like during COVID, when we normally have 180 polling locations. And under Tom Barrett, then we went to 5. But Wauwatosa, the size of Wauwatosa versus the size of the city of Milwaukee, and Wauwatosa had more polling locations than we had in the city of Milwaukee. What the hell kind of sense does that make?
Yeah.
And people were disenfranchised.
Wow.
Because they didn't know where to go. Because there wasn't a great job done to educate people about where to go. So it happens on both sides of the aisle. But what I still will say is that this overt racism, because some people messing up because they want to do something good, but they don't do it the right way. And they're condescending in the way they choose to execute that. I'll give you that. I'll say that about Democrats. Some. But it's a difference between that and somebody willing to overtly, intentionally harm you and remove you from history and tell the story so that no one understands the depravity that was involved in chattel slavery in this country. You want to say something, Jay?
Yeah, I was just thinking off of what you was just saying, and it sounds like what they're trying to do now is keep all the information from getting to the next generation, kind of like the information that they kept from us.
Right.
But, that we realized that, hold on, this math ain't math. And so we woke up and started to realize that, wait a minute, y'all didn't do the stuff y'all said y'all did. It was black people that created it. It was black people that did this. So now that they realize that we are realizing that we've been lied to, they want to erase all of that for the next generation.
And let me be clear, we didn't just get put on game. That's why Carter G. Woodson creates Negro History Week.
Yeah.
Because y'all lying.
Yeah.
Y'all trying to minimize the contributions of black people, act like we not smart, intelligent, competent, capable as anybody else in this world. So you're lying. Yeah. So no, we've been up on game. It's just about when we started having the tools to be able to fight back. And then we had some willing partners and people who were like, you know what, you right. It's been out of order. Let's address it. Let's fix it. But now a lot of those people are gone from these official roles. Since Trump has come in, look at the change and the flip in Congress. And these crazy, people that's coming into office now. When you got a congressman, when somebody says to them, "Sir, I just got laid off from my job."
Yeah, I've seen that.
And this man talks to this man so disrespectful.
You probably deserve it.
You deserved it. I mean, just like, and you could, like, I could just look in that white man's face and just see like the entitlement and, the contempt for just, it just was beyond the pale that you would see this openly today.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So how long are these people in office? Like, that guy that
if you're in the Senate, you 6 years. If you're in Congress, you 2 years.
So that means that in the future, whatever.
I mean, if you're in the House of Representatives, you 2 years. In the Senate, you 6.
So it's gonna come a point in time that he's gonna have to run again.
Yeah.
And the people is going to remember your response.
Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, many people who probably shared his views put him in office. And depending on how that district is drawn, it could be a very safe red district.
No, I understand it, but I've been watching the protests over the weekend and how all these people coming out and protesting against this regime. But I've noticed, just like you said, I didn't see any black people on the video that I was seeing, and I didn't see any Gen Zs out there, which made me think that, well, for those that voted for this administration, you in the F around and find out stage.
I mean, on some level, that's what it seems like. And to that point with these hands-off protests.
Yeah.
So protests were happening all over the world.
All over the world.
I've
seen it.
Cities across the United States, but in Berlin, in Paris, France, in other countries. And people were saying that this administration, led by Trump, with Elon Musk, equally at the helm, has just devastated policies and programs that are having real-time, immediate impacts.
Yeah.
When folks talk about Social Security, let me do this real quick. Let me pull up, because I had a couple people hit me about it today. I'm sorry, over the weekend. And Michelle, would you speak to it? So there are a number of folks that are wondering what's up with their Social Security, because there have been, stories saying, hey, they're trying to mess with Social Security. And people are like, am I going to get my check on time? Because we know that a number of people that work for a lot of these agencies have been fired, let go, laid off. We still paying them, but we're not getting no work done. And I'm looking for the story that broke down. Hang on. It's on my laptop. My desktop at home. I'm trying to see if I can find it, because some of the information that they broke down was just crazy. And I understand why people are just terrified. Okay. So The Hill, that's the name of a publication, online publication, did an article. It was titled Social Security 2025. Who will receive payments April 9th? And I was like, April 9th. So, I don't know the schedule. I thought everybody gets Social Security checks on the 1st. But amid increasing outrage over the proposed changes to Social Security benefits, staff reduction, website outages, people are monitoring their payments with a little bit extra scrutiny this month. So the Social Security Administration said Tuesday that they are trying to investigate, because if you've gone to the online portal, the website, to check on your Social Security, recipients are getting all kinds of crazy messages trying to find out what's happening. People who get SSI, disabled seniors, low-income adults, children, have reported receiving a notice that said they were, quote, not receiving benefits. The agency said the notice was a mistake. roughly 7.4 million seniors, adults, and children receive SSI benefits. How these people get notices telling them you are not receiving benefits. For those who want to monitor their payments closely for this month, the regular Social Security retirement benefit schedule is online, but the way they break this down in terms of payment goes by birth dates. So you'll get your Social Security or SSI payments on Wednesday, April 9th, if you have a birth date between the 1st and the 10th. So like my birthday is August 9th. So I would be on April 9th. If you have a birth date between the 11th and the 20th, you'll get that check on April 16th. If you have a birth date between the 21st and the 31st, you'll get that check on April 23rd. SSI beneficiaries that were slated to receive their payment on Tuesday, April 1st, you should have gotten that. But there are going to be 2 additional SSI payments trying to get back on track where some deficiencies may have occurred May 1st and Friday, May 30th. So I will be looking at this, but bottom line, if you don't receive your payment on time, on the due date that you are used to getting it, you need to call the Social Security office or SSA. That number is 1-800-772-1213. If you have any problems with your SSI payments, call 1-800-772-1213. I would tell you to go to your local Social Security office. But I have been hearing that people who have been going to the office have been told that they need an appointment before you could just walk in. But because of the staff shortages and everything that the Trump administration is doing in terms of cutting resources and workforce, people now, they're operating under a much stricter guideline. So you may go up there, but only to be given an appointment or told you need to make an appointment. I got a caller. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Shalom, family.
Hey, bro. Okay.
I'm curious. Did I hear you say that we still have people who don't? Let me back up. With all the stuff that's happening, we need to realize that there's a reason why these folks have tried everything since we've been here to keep us down. It's because of their own insecurities, their own inadequacies, not ours. It's not that we are, we don't need DEI, but to equalize the system, to allow people to catch up on the 20-mile lead that they've given themselves because they needed it. It's the right thing to do. But, doing the right thing is too much like right for them. So, our ancestors was reading and building civilizations before we came here. And being brought to a whole new, place and language imposed upon you and culture and, heritage and ignorance imposed upon you, it takes time for people to come to their senses, to realize what they need to do to survive, and then to thrive. And this is what we've done. But we still got a long way to go because we sort of become complacent and got, adjusted and adapted to craziness, that we started inflicting it upon ourselves more than we probably were, I have to say, before we were even brought here. Recognizing that everybody has some conflict within their own nations and all these types of things, but not to the degree where people are just mistreating you the way our ancestors were mistreated. And so we need to recognize this. And this, what's confronting now is no different. And I'm going to say this too. We've been prepared for what we have because of what we've been through. It's in our DNA to be stronger when the times are tougher. And so we need to stop looking for them to help us and really get to the place where we understand that just like our ancestors did, when they was even on the emancipation, when they was set free and told you're going to get 40 acres and a mule. And the people rose up and they said, no, we're not going to give y'all nothing. Well, okay, they said, no, we'll do for ourselves then. And then they still had to come out and try to stop us. And this is the same thing we're dealing with now. The mentality is the same. It hasn't changed. It's an insecurity. They don't want no competition. You know, so we need to really realize this and understand who we are and whose we are, and then do what we are capable of doing. This is something that just came to my spirit in the middle of the night. Our ability will only achieve our capability when we get back to worshiping and serving the Most High Creator Yah the way we were intended to. And get out of this foolishness that they done had us captive in all the time we've been here. We are the strongest people on the planet, and it's evidenced by us still being here when they tried to wipe us out. And we have to make the changes. Like they say, and our ancestors have said it, when you look in the mirror, that's the leader you've been waiting for. It's you. It's us coming together. It's us stop beating down each other, talking about, you know, their ice is colder than ours. No, the ice turns and melts just like anybody else's will. There's so many things that are going haywire. But this is the time for those who are the descendants, the past, the people of African descent to pull up themselves and show everybody how it's done. Because that's what we do. That's who we are. And that's why we're here. Lord be out with that, family. Y'all be well. Have a good week. Be safe. Stop killing each other. Shalom.
All right. Thank you, bro. Appreciate the call. Without doubt, we're going to have to move differently than we've been moving. And not everybody, because some people, you know, they have been consistent in the fight to educate, to strengthen, to instill culture, history, values. But we're gonna have to definitely step that up. You know, if you got something to look forward to, you're less likely to be out here on nonsense. If you understand who you are and what you come from, you're less likely to do stupid stuff. Not saying you won't, but you're less likely. Let me take a break. I'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, I'm going to get to some of these other issues. You know, these Trump tariffs are just a hot mess. I was laughing, or I shouldn't say laughing, but I was thinking about how everybody, I don't care what you do, you're going to be impacted. I don't care who you are. And one of the things I laughed about, we have a running joke in the station about Nike wear. And, you know, we laughing, talking about we doing a tag check. Nike was one of 700 retailers on a call in the last several days in which they're trying to figure out how they're going to deal with the tariffs that are being imposed on all these different countries. Because I was saying, you can look in your tag, made in Taiwan, made in Vietnam, you know, made in Hong Kong. Nike stuff is made all over the world. And what that means for them as manufacturers and bringing those goods to the United States. And then what that looks like to the consumer who purchases those things. The coffee that I'm drinking this morning, we don't grow coffee beans in the United States. Most of our coffee is imported. Like 90-some% of our coffee is imported from around the world. And you have people telling you right now, that cup of coffee you holding in your hand, some of y'all can make some real decisions because Starbucks already high. What do they have to do to absorb these tariffs and what's going on? That stuff is going to get passed on to consumers. So I'm literally looking at 5 to 6 things in my immediate space that are impacted by tariffs ASAP. I had to take my car, the Jeep, to go get some brake work and stuff done. And, you know, dealerships do what dealerships do. Well, you know, you want to start looking at another vehicle. No. Whatever I got right now is what we getting ready to keep for a while. Because I'm not paying those additional costs and increase prices to cover, you know, when Donald Trump and all these rich people tell poor people and people middle class and, you know, doing what they can to get by, y'all gonna go through it, but it's gonna be all right after a while. They not feeling none of this pain. As you see your retirement accounts in trouble, and you got people who work in the markets, you know, trying to poo-poo people's anxiety. I mean, this is what markets do. Don't worry about it. It'll go up. It'll come back up. Yeah, but what do I lose as an individual while I'm waiting for it to come back up? I may not be able to withstand the come up. Yes.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Do you think he's purposely trying to crash the market so the interest rates can lower?
You know, I wish I had like a sound rationale that I can provide for. Number one, I think that Donald Trump is an idiot. I think that you don't have 5, 6 bankruptcies because you know how to run business well. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that you blow through most of the money that your father left you because you are a good and savvy businessman. Yeah. I don't believe that. I believe he's an idiot. That's why he's worked to protect his grades from the Wharton School of Business. You know, that's why he BS's and plays on his taxes. He's an idiot. So I expect a lot of that to show up when you're trying to lead. And then you surround yourself with even more idiots.
And it seems like that he's the smartest person in the room. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
And definitely, but for a lot of people, it doesn't seem that way. You know, there are many staffers that have left the administration, even the first administration, left the campaign, that have talked about this man does not read. He, you know, they would try to put briefings in as bite-sized, basically child-friendly formats as they could, and dude wouldn't read a one-pager. You trying to lead the free world, I mean, the country, and basically the free world, and you won't even read what's going on. Somebody had to tell it to him like he was Denzel Washington. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. That's how they have to handle this dude. So we're going to see this stuff everywhere. Let me give you another example of a story that was in the Journal Sentinel this morning. And I got to be honest. I didn't know about this organization, but I certainly know about the programs and the impact. But there's an organization called Wisconsin Humanities, okay? And Wisconsin Humanities is a statewide organization founded in 1972. And they do programming in the humanities. I mean, like literally, there is so much to learn from this organization. But on their website, it says, effective immediately, we've received notice from the acting chair of the National Endowment for the Humanities that effective April 2nd, all awarded grants, including our 5-year general operating grant and other program-specific awards, are canceled in their entirety. The loss of NEH funding will result in Wisconsin Humanities closing its doors very soon. The end of NEH funding to Wisconsin Humanities and other state humanities councils will harm communities in every state, in every congressional district, and contribute to the erasure of our shared humanity and hopes for democracy. So when I'm reading the story in the Journal Sentinel this morning, and I'm trying to learn about this organization, 85% of their budget comes from the feds through these grants and awards. So, yeah, if I'm taking away 85% of your funding source, it's a wrap. And I looked at the different projects that this group had done awards for in 2024. $215,000 in matching grants, mostly to 28 grassroots community-led projects, public projects. So what does that include? Eau Claire Area Hmong Mutual Assistance Association. The Dr. James Cameron Legacy Foundation, $10,000 award to create an immersive role-playing exhibit that asks visitors to walk in the shoes of America's Black Holocaust Museum founder James Cameron, who survived an attempted lynching. Growing Older in Rural Wisconsin. That's a program. Linden Sculpture Garden. Program highlighting and celebrating Black art and artists, including a participatory and interactive exhibit and direct work by artist Osama Walton with educators and community organizations. Bikes for Kids Wisconsin, in partnership with Black Girl Magic, $3,800 to highlight the power of bicycling for middle school girls and overall community health. Bronzeville Histories Institute, $3,998 to conduct history and art camps with youth. Wisconsin Humanities counterpart organizations in other states, including Jersey and Oklahoma, have all sounded similar alarms. The NEH had just announced $22.6 million in grants for 219 humanities projects across the country on January 14th under the Biden administration. Did y'all hear what I said? This is just Milwaukee. And this was just a few of the programs mentioned in the article. So to help bring down your cost of eggs, we gonna cut arts and educational programs, but $3,800. And because some of these programs were a match, people had to find and put up the money. So I'm going for a $10,000 grant. That meant I needed to find $10,000 or use my own $10,000 and begin to do this program, and the government would reimburse me. They do a match and reimburse me. Well, true to form, Donald Trump, king of reneging on contracts, king of not making good on his deals, king of letting people do the work and then coming up with a flimsy excuse not to pay them and having to be taken to court a ridiculous amount of times because of leaving people holding the bag. It's community organizations that are now left holding the bag. So the United States word means nothing. If you got a grant in writing, approved from the federal government. That was supposed to be like gold. You know, you take that to the bank. Literally, I got a federal contract coming in. And then you have this man and the folks around him and many of these leaders, Republican leaders in Congress, who don't care that there are people who are now financially getting ready to be holding the bag because the United States government has reneged on deals. And all you got to do is say, the previous administration did something that doesn't align with Donald Trump's personal priorities and the 12 people that support him financially and got his ear. And so, yeah, all over the country, program after program, just sorry, y'all. Sorry. But we're seeing it with farmers. We saw Ron Johnson out crying, talking about farmers in Wisconsin because the Trump administration is leaving farmers holding the bag. You got a grant to do some improvements, bring solar, whatever it is on your farm, blah, blah, blah. But you had to put money into it. And then the government will send you money and reimburse you. Those farmers who already operate on shoestrings, many of them, they put money into it. And under Donald Trump, they said, yeah, we ain't paying that. We ain't paying that. But we already paid, we got an agreement. They holding up the paper. We got a signed contract. King renegger. Yeah. We ain't paying that. No. So, but then look at the camera and tell people it's going to be tough for a while. I'm about to lose my program. I'm about to lose everything I have, my family farm. I'm about to lose my job. And you telling me it's going to be tough? Tough is an understatement. But y'all gonna get y'all, whatever economic benefit. Even though the stock market, securities, stuff is in, like, I won't say free fall, but a recession is coming. For real, for real. They kept hollering about a recession during the Biden administration, but we about to get one for real now. So let's go through some stuff. But before we do that, let me take a second. Former Vice President Kamala Harris was at an event, and she had this moment in her speech where she said, I could say, I told you so. But, I ain't going to do that. But she said, I could say, I told you so. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because, to that point, even when, you think folks ride with you and they on your team, they'll still throw you under the bus. So former Vice President Kamala Harris was speaking to a group at the Leading Women Define Summit this past week. And she said she could see a lot of Trump's actions coming. Her specific words were, quote, I'm not going to say I told you so. I swore I wasn't going to say that. Crowd starts cracking up. They know, what's going on. Well, her former running mate out of Minnesota, Tim Walz, the governor, he basically got on Jake Tapper, who just irritates my soul, to get at Kamala Harris about saying that, as opposed to saying, I told you so, which she didn't say. She said, I could say it. He says basically the Democrats need to be trying to figure out a message. We need to be trying to figure out what went wrong in the election. Basically like, why you talking slick? The Democratic Party is in free fall, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just looking at him like, look here, little plain Jane. That wasn't nobody thinking about. And ain't nobody still thinking about. I wonder if your former running mate were a man. if you would have been so slick in your criticism. I could be wrong, but I kind of wonder. But she elevates you to a running mate for vice president of the United States, even if you didn't agree with what she said. We watch people pivot every day from a question. So, Governor Walz, what did you think about Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, saying, I told you so, I could have told you, I told you so? The vice president is entitled to her position. We have got to look at a litany of things, but the frustration is real. He could have said all kinds of stuff, but no, you want to, lightweight throw her of the Democrats under the bus. So to that point about ain't nobody really your friend. Even when you bringing this cat to the party, I invited you to the party. You only here in this spotlight because of me. And then you get your behind on TV and kind of lightweight come for me? I'm just saying. So the other thing that he did, which I'm struggling with, is, we need to find a message that resonates with working class people. No, that's not what you mean. You need to find a message that resonates with white working class men. That's what you mean. Because somebody telling you I'm going to cut Social Security, I'm going to cut health care, I'm going to cut child care, I'm going to, reduce this, that's not a message that I'm here to help working class people. That's not that message. I don't know what my campaign should be to a racist. I don't know. I don't know how I get the racists to support me. And, I don't really feel like I need to figure that out because it's bigger than me. You got to turn some stuff over to the Lord. It's bigger than me. I can't cure your heart, fam. I can't. I can't figure out what's wrong in your life, that you're so mad with everybody else in the world, that you don't want to see nobody else be okay. I don't know what to tell you. But the idea that this dude thought that this is what he should do on a national television show was amazing to me. You came for the chick who brought you to the party. Well, all right. We all got to do stuff. Let me come local for a second. I'm gonna go to these tariffs, but let me come local. So phone ringing off the hook on Friday. Was it Friday? I think it's Friday. Michelle, did you know ICE was down at the courthouse arresting people? I was like, what? Yeah. So, I get to snooping around, asking questions and making phone calls. And sure enough, ICE, the immigration folks, have made 2 arrests outside of courthouse facilities, safety building, I think was one place, over the course of the last month. And so there was a statement from the Milwaukee County Sheriff, and I'll see if I can find it, in which they said we knew about one arrest. Okay. We didn't know about the other arrests. And then, so I'm getting the calls like 9:30 Friday morning, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there. It was early morning. But press statements started coming out like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. County executive got a press statement out. A bunch of the Latina groups put press statements out. Hispanic legislators put statements out. So, I'm looking at everybody's little statements, which are coming considerably later after the fact. And I'm like, so on the one that you knew about for the sheriff's office, did y'all let anybody else know? Hey, just so you know, it's some ICE people gonna be at the courthouse and safety building, wherever they was at, that will be executing an arrest. Now, I know some of this is, hush hush. So can you tell that before it happens? I don't know. But as soon as it happened, it's supposed to go down at 10 o'clock because the person is showing up for an unrelated matter and they're getting ready to take them into custody. So at 10:07, I got a press release ready to go, or at least an internal email. Hey, just putting everybody on notice. County exec, this is what happened.
Does the county have to be notified by ICE that they are coming?
So I think it is a professional courtesy that is typically, given, but I don't know that they have to. I don't, because it's the feds. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that they absolutely have to tell anybody, but I think as a professional courtesy, they're giving a heads up. But one of the statements that I read from, it looks like the sheriff's office, is that one of the arrests they didn't know anything about. So let me go. I'm just pulling it up. Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office, whose deputies provide courthouse security, said it did not participate in either arrest, but they added it is not uncommon for law enforcement to search available databases for court hearings involving people they are seeking. So it says, an email that Milwaukee County Chief Justice Carl Ashley sent, which noted, quote, the first incident happened on March 20th after an injunction hearing. It also said both arrests happened in public hallways. If these detentions occurred in the courtroom, I believe it would have directly interfered with our judicial process. Ashley's email read, I'm not sure if we have the authority to intervene in what happens in a public hallway. So then, everybody comes out with different statements. But the second arrest, it doesn't look like the sheriff's office knew that second arrest was going to happen.
So ICE is aware, if you will, that I got a court date.
Yeah.
And they just happen to come and get me.
No, they don't just happen. They come. They go through and they like, oh, I've been looking for Mr. Dubois, or he may be here illegally, or whatever it is that flags you, and then they see you got a court date and they show up and they snatch you before you can have your court date. And that's what they did. And so, like I said, on one, the county knows that this is happening. On another arrest, they don't. How do you go into this kind of situation and don't flag and give people a heads up? It's just common courtesy and respect. But that's how we moving now. What I found interesting was the statements that came out.
Well, what I find interesting is certainly if I'm of that culture, I probably ain't coming to court.
There you go. One of the things that County Executive Crawley says is, we want people to be able to trust the judicial system. And if you got court appearances you need to make, that basically you're going to come because you need to take care of this business. Mm-hmm. But now people are concerned, and even, innocent people can get caught up. Look at the order right now that was made by the judge last week for Trump and them to return the person they wrongfully
deported.
I was looking for the word. Thank you. To El Salvador or wherever the hell they sent him. And they got to bring this man back. And they tell me, well, we don't know if we can. So they actively are fighting bringing back someone that they were wrong to take in the first place. Actively. And so the deadline is today.
Ain't nothing happening.
I'm betting money they don't bring that man back today because Donald Trump and his people believe they are above the law.
So if they don't bring him back, what is the consequences? Because ain't that defying a judge order?
Yeah.
But who gets
they
who
did
gets
it
the consequence?
already.
Who gets the consequence?
It's the question.
Okay. So in terms of let me see if I can find, because I saw something that talked about possible responses from the judge if it happens. Let me see. And I just love that they keep saying this man is in a gang, but they've never, ever provided any proof of that whatsoever. Man has no arrest record, is a barber, doing everything he's supposed to be doing. And the judge is like, y'all playing. But I'm looking to see where, because just the fact that they act like they can't get this man back is so crazy to me.
Yeah, that tripped me out. They said that they made a mistake, but it's nothing that they can do about it. That is a bunch of...
Yeah, you sent him there, and you paying for him to be there.
Yeah,
he ain't there for free. We write a check for that man to be there now. So stop playing like you can't get him back.
I think they don't want to get him back because it's going to show weakness in Trump and his administration. That's what I think. Because Trump don't like to lose. So anything that, goes against what he says, he don't like. And yeah, that's just, wow.
So I'm looking of the consequences, because I'm telling y'all, it just doesn't feel like they're going to be able to do a whole bunch. You might hold some of, I don't know, the lawyers in contempt. I don't know. I'll find the answer to that because I had pulled it up because I had posed that question honestly myself.
But didn't they just fire the lawyer that couldn't handle it? They just released him of his job.
Yeah, it wasn't that he couldn't handle it.
Well, I mean, they
Right.
felt like he couldn't handle the judge because he went to court saying he don't have the information, he don't know, and they fired this man this weekend.
Right.
Yeah, but the judge can't fire him.
No,
Trump,
it was Trump people.
The Trump administration.
Yeah.
So I don't see.
Maybe the head of ICE is the one that could be held in contempt.
But again, like you said, is anybody actually going to go to jail for defying the judge's order?
Because if we defy the judge's order,
right,
we're going
it's
to
a
jail
wrap.
for
ASAP.
a contempt of court, right?
Yeah, ASAP. They're going to take you out at that moment. Bailiff, escort Miss Bryant to the back. get her that outfit, sit her down in that cell.
So what size?
So that becomes the problem. But you don't put this man on one of these deportation flights. This man was not afforded due process. I don't care what you think about immigrants.
Well, they're saying none of them have been afforded.
No, none of them have. But he uses this law from the 1800s talking about he has the right to do this because I'll get him. Let me get him real quick. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, listen. Now, I remember being on general assistance. Okay.
Wait, you remember? Oh, you said being on general assistance. Okay.
Yeah. General assistance was a welfare program.
Okay.
And I remember being on general assistance, and we had to pick up our food stamps from the courthouse. And I went to pick up my food stamps, and I had a warrant for driving out the revocation. And they took me right to jail. And this sting operation lasted for years. And then if you look in 2007, there was a police, I've always bring this up, and there's probably more of these guys floating around. He was in 2007, Oscar something, I forget his name. He was a police officer, an illegal alien, and his cousin had signed for him to get on the force, and his cousin remained on the force. He had lied. Can you imagine all of those cases that these boys been putting together on people? So when it comes down to this situation here, I don't know why we, as blacks, is fighting to help these folks, when if the shoe was on the other foot, they would be rounding us up with them people, getting our black butts out of here.
So first of all, the fight is not about protecting them people. It's about process. It's about the fact that you have a sheriff of a department who is not notified that ICE is coming in on that second arrest. I'm talking about process right now. I'm not talking about the immigrants themselves. So that's not the argument this morning.
Well, the argument that you have is because of these illegal immigrants.
No. I'm talking about
we wouldn't be having the conversation.
You can't conflate the two. I'm talking about process, bruh. The need to respect these roles and positions, and not just me coming in your house and doing what I want to do and not giving you a heads up. If you could call me about the first one, you could call me about the second one. I'm talking about process. So I have time to let the people that will be impacted by this stuff know what's going on. That's all this is. It's process.
That me and a friend got in an argument one time because these well, I don't want to inject that because that would take us somewhere else, but it would be a good analysis, but it would take me somewhere else, and I know the dialogue would be shattered at that point. Listen, I understand what you're saying about process, but what about why we didn't get a heads up when I went down? And matter of fact, I had a nickel bag in my pocket when I went to get my food stamps.
It's not for you, the individual being impacted. It's for the agencies that run those buildings.
Well, why they didn't tell us when we was on general assistance and they had us locked up?
It's not
Some people had outstanding warrants.
It's not you. It's not you. This is a professional courtesy, one agency to another.
No, this makes it a sanctuary city.
No.
What you saying?
No. What I'm saying is no one said that they were going to interfere with ICE's execution of this arrest. What they said is we didn't know. And we would have appreciated a heads up. And you create fear and concern in the courthouse because even our officers don't know what's happening. And it is their responsibility.
Might be illegal themselves, Michelle, is what my point was.
That's not the point.
So we're going to just go ahead and end this conversation because you don't want to deal with the issue.
No, I'm dealing with process. But there is no process when you didn't follow the directions. When me and you do break the law, we don't get no heads up. They come to our house, knock on the door early in the morning.
We're not talking about the immigrant. We're talking about the agencies. We're talking about
I
ICE.
understand about the agency.
But it's not trying to bring in the other part of it because the two are not the same. It's a different conversation, Meech.
The agency wouldn't be active if there wasn't a law to be broken.
It is two different issues, Meech. Whatever their reason for doing it is.
The agency wouldn't be activated if there wasn't a problem, Michelle. Why you got to fight? Why you just can't say, well, bro,
because you're wrong. Thank you. Have a nice day, Meech. I appreciate it. Because you're wrong, bro. As usual, you're wrong. As usual, you're wrong. Get out of your feelings about immigrants and be able to see the bigger picture of an organizational structure and process and the safety risk and everything that goes with that when you are dealing with law enforcement agencies and one agency doesn't know what the other agency is doing.
I mean, it's as plain as day what you're saying. What you're saying is if we have a proper protocol, let's follow the protocol. There's no way, like if me and you is working for the same company and the boss is passing out information that's going to affect both of us, and you go make a move without sharing it with us, that affects us in the long run. Because I say that because we all look like we from somewhere else. Exactly. So if there's no due process, they can just walk up to you, grab you, throw you in a paddy wagon, and put you on a plane and send you somewhere that you're not even from.
That's what they're doing.
That's this whole process of due process and respecting the process. Because if you tell me and I know that you're coming, I can have things in place that can assist you, that can help you because it's the proper protocol.
But again, just the kind of fear of seeing it, because I don't know how many agents it is. I don't know what it looks like when you engage people. And for the individual that's being arrested, who's getting caught off guard, I don't know what your response is going to be. Is it going to be violent? Or are you just going to comply? So you're creating conditions that potentially are unsafe in these buildings. Let people know, one law enforcement agency to another, hey fam, we about to be. Let me tell you something before I go to break.
Listen, too. You got people coming into the courthouse with guns and stuff on. Yeah. If the sheriffs don't know who they are, now you got a situation here.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know,
chaos.
Even something so simple as a legislator, if you are in another legislator's district, you do a courtesy heads up just to let you know, I'm gonna be at a town hall meeting in your district. I ain't here to step on your toes. You just, it's a courtesy,
right?
You let people know.
Police
Protocol.
officers can't even go into a whole different state and make an arrest without
Another
letting people know.
municipality. When you
Right.
enter Greenfield, enters
Come on,
Milwaukee, it's a phone call coming.
Yeah.
We over in y'all house
Sure
right
would.
now.
Any of them.
Yeah, any
those,
of them.
Any
So that's what we're
municipality.
talking about. So, you know, but you get so hung up on, you want to dislike a group and be mad at a group. And it's the other thing. As I go to break, I learned a long time ago, I'm going to stand up for a whole lot of people who will never stand up for me. I do it every day on this radio station. I do it every day in my professional life. I stand up for people who don't like me. I stand up for people who don't support me. I stand up for people who will leave me hanging, if not harm me themselves. Because I'm not standing up for them. I'm standing up for what's right. No matter who is on the receiving end of the fight. I'll be right back.
To Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. Let me take a caller who held through the break. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, I just had to respond to our very uninformed brothers that realize that the Confederacy.
Hang on 1 second. You got us on speaker. It sounds like you're in the
Yeah, let me
hallway.
take you off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, I mean, many times I have to remind our brother that a Confederate is his worst enemy. And to your point of defending somebody who will never defend you, just the breaking of that court order is also something that Meach know he wouldn't get away with, if to your other point about checking in, if you're supposed to be a player, you know that when you come to another city that you check in. And so it's unfortunate that, in his older years, our brother has forgotten those things, but I'm here to inform him that, yes, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, Brother Meach. And so while you're arguing against somebody who's done nothing to you, I'm sure he has some elders in his family who are now paying more for insulin, and he's getting to the age where he might need insulin next year. And so when it was $35 under the Biden-Harris administration, it was more affordable, so he might not need food stamps. So these are the things that are important to educate the uninformed 8%, that the 92% of us realize, and this is why we're resisting this Nazi regime. So thank you, and carry on, continue. You're doing a great job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. Let me play something real quick, family. Hang on, let me see if I can. Where is it? Because my computer straight acted up, but okay. Let's see. Turn up my volume. Okay, let's see if I can play this. So what I'm
it's
trying
a rare thing with someone
Okay,
you've been
that's
with for so long.
I'm gonna turn that part down. Okay. All right, we are all.
Form now comes with the power of Morgan Stanley.
A couple of, yeah. Okay, now.
You all have a lot of questions for us about tariffs. We've got answers. Let's start with the basics. First off, what is a tariff? Simply put, tariffs are taxes on goods from other countries. They've been around for centuries. They're often used to protect domestic industries, workers, and they're also used to generate revenue.
Ruth from the Midwest asked this: who pays the tariffs imposed by the White House, the government or the foreign country? Even though the tariffs are on foreign countries, it is U.S. businesses that import products from those countries that end up paying the tariff. It could be the fact that some suppliers in those foreign countries eat the total cost of the tariff, but economists agree that's unlikely. The suppliers will likely pass the tariff down to U.S. businesses, who will ultimately pass that cost down to you.
Jeremy from South Carolina wants to know, what should the average U.S. consumer expect to be affected by these tariffs? Well, the first impact is you're going to see some significant changes to your 401ks and your investment portfolios because these tariffs have caused major volatility on Wall Street. You also may see higher prices on imports because companies, they typically pass along at least some of the cost of these tariffs to you and I as consumers. Here's the bottom line. The Tax Foundation estimates that the cost of these tariffs will be $2,100 per year to the typical family.
Isaac from Oregon asks, how much will cars go up? Hey, Isaac. So right now there's a tariff in place on foreign cars imported into the US. And according to Anderson Economic Group, they estimate that foreign brands like Lexus and BMW, prices of those cars will rise by about $8,000 to $20,000. And then cars that are assembled here in the US but use foreign parts could rise anywhere from $2,500 to $15,000.
So John from Florida asks, what does Trump hope to gain by imposing tariffs? And the question is a little bit complicated, but here's what I'd say up front. Trump has made clear he wants fair trade. He believes trade deficits with most of these countries are dramatically too large, despite kind of how trade economics works. The other thing too, revenue. He wants money for the United States, thinks he can finance his legislative agenda, and then there's negotiating power. How those all actually net out in the end, still an open question, but those are the goals.
All right, so a lot of folks have been seeing this chart that Donald Trump has been holding up, talking about, the disparities between tariffs between U.S. and different countries. There was a funny moment when one of Trump's secretaries was on a show, and she was asked about one of the places where Trump imposed a tariff. Let me see if I can find it. And when you catch people in a situation that they can't respond to, it was hilarious. So it was the person who irritates me, Jake Tapper, but he asked the agricultural secretary, Brooke Rollins, this question. He wanted to know, why did Donald Trump's administration put a 10% tariff on this country or this area? It's called Heard Island and McDonald Islands. Okay. These are remote territories inhabited only by penguins, seals, and seabirds. Let me say that again. Heard Island and McDonald Island had 10% tariffs imposed on them by Donald Trump's administration and all these geniuses that are around the table. And while she was on his show, he asked the Secretary of Agriculture, why did y'all put tariffs on an island whose only inhabitants are penguins, seals, and seabirds, which means there are no people, there are no products and goods and services, there are no exports, there's nothing. But they're on the list. And I watched the lady tap dance. And she literally said, because first it was, well, I mean, come on, Jake. Obviously. And then she laughed some more because you don't know what to say. Here's the bottom line. We live under a tariff regime from other countries. No. You put a tariff on an island that has no people. There's no trading going on, imports or exports. This dumb administration put a tariff where there are penguins, seals. I'm just saying. And then she goes on to say, oh, America first. Because, that's the pivot. We got to talk about, we need fairness. And there are people, I didn't calculate these formulas, but there are really brilliant people at the table who came up with this information. Who was so brilliant that they taxed the island that don't have no people and that we don't do no trade business with? Who are the geniuses? Who are they, Madam Secretary? It just don't never be me. It just don't never be me. Go ahead.
I just got a text from a seal that said that they are holding an emergency meeting today. The seal and the penguins are meeting today, and they're gonna sit around the round table and figure this thing out. Because nobody's never seen nothing like this before.
But look, and then this other part, because somebody is lying. World Bank data shows that in 2022, the U.S. imported $1.4 million worth of goods from Heard Island and McDonald's Islands, mostly classified as machinery and electrical products, despite the fact that the island has no buildings or people.
Well, the seals got to build. The seals and the penguins.
Who was important stuff? Like, these people are so scandalous, but to watch her, you have got to watch her.
I seen it.
Did you see it?
I seen it.
She didn't know what to do with herself.
What to say? She just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and then eventually, well, I ain't do it. I'm just doing what they told me to do. And while these are brilliant people, so just trust them, America. Just because we got to get this under control. But everything these people are doing, you are looking at the table like, so exactly who's leading the charge and who are the people doing the math and the algorithms and coming up with the strategy? What's going on at Doge? Because nobody can even find anybody over Doge that's over 25 years old. Like, so who's doing what? The tariffs are tearing not just up the U.S. and getting ready to jack up our economy. It's messing up the world. That's why you have hands-off protests happening in cities across the world.
And you know what tripped me out about that? Because I was watching some of these protests on TV. A couple of things I've noticed. I noticed, like I was talking about earlier, like it wasn't a bunch of black people, it wasn't a bunch of Gen Zs, and it wasn't a bunch of police with shields out there with these people that was protesting. Now, if it was Black Lives Matter, if it was all these other people that was protesting, the George Floyd incident and things like that, you have police in riot gear and all this other stuff. But you got protests going all around the world. And when I was looking at the protests in New York, I didn't see not one.
And we had them in Milwaukee.
Shield.
Let's be clear. We had downtown by the courthouse. We had protests here in Milwaukee. But this is the thing. On that one, I'm just gonna say, just hold on, because these are protests against the administration, and so eventually Trump will try to figure out how to crack down on protests in this country. Trust me. No, they may not have been out there, and just kind of let it play out, didn't know how big it was going to be, even though more than 600,000 people were signing petitions in the U.S. saying, I plan to attend, I'm going to be there. But there will be a police presence, I bet you, going forward in a lot of these cities as they begin to try to figure out how to shut down voices. I mean, look at what this man has done with these law firms, being able to say, oh, you work for a law firm that, had to represent a client who was coming after me, or, who represented the federal government in investigations about this or that I had done. So your law firm attorneys won't have clearance to be able to get into federal buildings. Like, he basically was rendering these law firms in a way that they couldn't even perform their basic duties. And so what did they all do? Many of them, the big ones, including the firm that Loretta Lynch works for, they said, hey, so we'll set up basically a third-party shell company situation, whoever, but we'll donate $100 million to them that you basically can use to fight your causes, a slush fund, if you will, if you give us our security clearances back so that we can go into federal buildings. That's what law firms just did. They just did that. Instead of fighting this dude, use some of the biggest law firms in this country. You got resources and some of supposedly the most brilliant people on your team. And it was easier to basically pay ransomware, $100 million. And just like that, guess who got their clearances back? But if you was a threat on Tuesday, how are you not a threat on Monday? Oh, because we exchanged $100 million.
It's about bread. He loved money. And by him loving money, he's willing to do whatever evil he can do.
All right. Am I wrapping my show or am I going? I'm wrapping it.
It seemed like this Monday went so fast.
Man, it's so much to talk about. Lord have knows. Jeez. I mean, Lord knows. Lord have mercy. It's so much to talk about. I'm going to just tell y'all. I didn't do the show in the way I planned it because I was so thrown as for people who heard me when I first started this morning. But when I say the commitment to make sure that we protect our history in this country, and not just that we tell it orally, that we fight. If you're going to use public dollars, I'll be damned if you're going to use public dollars and keep lying. We ain't gonna do that. At some point, Black folks, we may not do what other people are doing with the hands-off stuff, because a lot of us is tired and pissed off, because we too have been trying to tell people, and folks been playing us left, no matter what side of the groups you're on or what aisle. But we, as a collective, we gonna have to do something to let these, just like we did with Target and 28 billion or whatever that was that they lost, we gonna have to let people know, don't come for us. All right, y'all. Brothers, thank you. I appreciate y'all so much this morning. Because when I tell you I didn't think I was going to make it, I didn't think I was going to make it. Whatever. All right. Talk to y'all tomorrow.